Hi, I'm Nikki Vogel. I'm doing my student teaching this semester at Oak Forest Elementary in third grade.
Hi, my name's Keyara Smith, and I'm also at Oak Forest Elementary School, and I'm in second grade.
We chose to work together to talk about what we've learned these last 10 weeks during our language learning experience because we knew each other from prior semesters. We're also at the same school, and we studied the same language, which was Spanish. Do you want to talk a little bit about why you chose Spanish?
Sure. So I chose Spanish originally because I had taken 4 years of Spanish previously in high school. And once I got to my senior year, I had gotten my bilingual seal, but once I graduated, I never really used it anymore. So I just pretty much completely lost the language. I can read it pretty well, I can understand it, but my speaking skills have definitely gone away, just not using it at all. But I thought it'd be a good idea, especially being in Houston, that we have a lot of Spanish speakers in our school. So I think it's very important to at least have some kind of knowledge on that.
I connected a lot with what Kiara is saying because I chose Spanish similarly because of all the Spanish that's used around us with living in Houston, living close to the border. Also, just seeing how many students I've had in the classroom whose second language is Spanish, whose native language was Spanish. It's something that's kind of been troubling for me because I studied it in high school, got away from it, have never really made any notable achievements in it, so I thought it would be nice to kind of get back into it.
Yeah, definitely.
Today, as we talk, we're going to be using some guiding questions, but we're going to do this more discussion or conversation based,
Right.
so that hopefully anyone watching this can benefit from our conversation and the experiences that we've seen in the classroom as pre-service teachers. We wanted to talk a bit about our successes and difficulties with learning this language. I touched on it a bit. For me, the difficulty is just that I've never really had retention.
Right.
This course has made it easier for me to see why. I think a lot of it is that I didn't pick it up at an early age, that I don't live in a Spanish community or a community where I have access to a lot of native speakers to practice. And so it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. When I don't use it, I lose it.
Yes. I can completely agree with what you're saying. That's what happened to me. Although I did grow up in New Mexico, in Albuquerque, so there are a lot of Spanish speakers around, which kind of influenced me even more to speak Spanish.
Yeah.
But like you mentioned, just the retention. It's like if you don't use it, you lose it. So that wasn't something I was using every day other than my Spanish class. So once I graduated, it just all pretty much went away. So yeah, but I would say some of my difficulties, just like you mentioned, the retention and the successes, I would say just having that practice, being able to study, and then kind of having those students in the classroom, you can kind of use it with them and kind of practice it with them. So I think that was some of my successes during this time.
For successes for myself, I wouldn't say that it's been any kind of mastery grasp on the language. It has been really how I relate to the students and like the grace that I've given myself with not learning the language as quickly as I would have liked to, or I think of myself as an intelligent person, so I thought it was just going to be something I picked up like this,
Right.
and I didn't. And so that's been helpful to kind of see why, like all the factors that it can affect learning a second language. It also helps me see in the classroom why maybe the ELL students I'm working with aren't communicating with English the way that I thought they would.
Right.
Because there's a
That makes
whole
sense.
theory behind how it's learned, the progression of it. How has this experience impacted your classroom experience with your ELL students?
I would definitely agree with you. I think during this experience, it's made me open my eyes to see that a lot of the students, just the difficulty that they have in classrooms. You kind of notice these students really not speaking up as often, but you can, when you're learning a language, you can definitely understand where they're coming from, just like having a pause. I know for me specifically, when I'm speaking and I'm trying to communicate in Spanish, it takes a lot for me to kind of think exactly what I'm going to say and how I'm going to say it before I even say it. So if I was that student in the classroom, I probably wouldn't raise my hand either if I knew that I had to take so much time just to express what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
I relate to that a lot because for myself, our neighborhood class is the class that has our ELL students in it, and there's 6, and we get them at the end of the day. And seeing the difference from the morning to the end of the day when they get started on their reading, sometimes I think, well, why aren't they really working on this as hard as I think that they could? But doing this language experience, and I worked a very short period of time each day on Spanish, and afterwards, my brain was just tired.
Yeah.
With Duolingo, even just saying things or reading things or selecting things,
Right.
it was so different than doing it in English. My brain was tired afterwards. So
Yeah.
considering that
Yeah.
they've done all their other classes that day, before they get to us, it's the end of the day, they've worked with this language all day.
Right.
I have a lot more empathy as to why, the motivation might seem like it's not there at that point.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because
I
they're
agree.
so tired.
Yeah, definitely.
How do you think this has helped you grow professionally?
I would say professionally, it's helped by, as I mentioned earlier, just being able to have that connection with the students now. So I have, even though I'm not proficient completely in it or advanced at all, I feel as though I have a little bit of understanding of the language, so I can communicate with them a little easier, which definitely makes them more comfortable when they know that their teacher can speak a little bit of Spanish. If there's no knowledge of Spanish with those students, they kind of might feel a little like alienated or separated from the class. But I think having that has helped me grow professionally, and then just definitely growing that sense of understanding for them as well.
I fully agree with the sense of understanding for the students. I also think a sense of understanding for all the work that goes on behind the scenes that teachers put in with ELL students. I took a lot of that for granted before I took this class, because I'd only had the methodology class before, and it doesn't dive into that quite as deep.
Right.
So I didn't realize all the things that the classroom teacher was expected to do for the students. I kind of naively thought that there was someone there to help with that transition for them, and then this has really made me see that it's us. Like, if we don't do it, it's not getting done. So I think professionally, this has just given me a whole knowledge base to kind of the tool belt scenario, things to reach for if I don't feel like I'm making the connection, to try another avenue, to just keep going, to find that thing that motivates that student to want to work with me, and to pull the family in to work with me as well. Why do you think this activity may have longer lasting implications on your interactions with your students?
I would say that this would definitely help a lot, just because now that I've had my own experience relearning it and having to learn it on my own and not having a teacher there, it definitely has had a huge impact on that. And I think it'll definitely have a longer lasting implication on that, just because I had to go through it again. And now being older, because that was when I was 18, I'm now 22. So just being able to empathize with them more, it makes a huge difference.
I agree with the empathy as well. It's just something that, like, for example, when I'm in a reading classroom and we're talking about summary, all the words come naturally to me. I've had it my whole life. But doing Spanish, I mean, simple words like, over. I mean, things that are use, like, oh, go grab the pencil over there. Completely different in Spanish. There's no cognates for it. And so that's how a Spanish speaker or any language speaker would feel coming into English. And it's exhausting having to commit that to memory. And I really just realized I have to create those experiences for the kids where they're just constantly interacting with not just their ELL peers, but English native speakers as well, to give them that extra experience with talking and listening.
Right.
Our next question is, did this activity make you look inwardly and do anything differently in your classrooms with regards to your ELL students, particularly because we were in classrooms last semester and we're in classrooms this semester, now having taken this course.
Right. So I know last semester that's when I kind of got introduced to it. We only had one student in the classroom that was an ELL student, but he was very advanced, so there wasn't too much differentiation for him. But just now knowing the things that we can do to help, like you said, you thought there was somebody that came in separately, but that's actually our responsibility. We have to make sure that we're including them and make sure that they have the tools that they need to succeed, just like every other student. So
I think with me, it definitely goes back to supplying the accommodations as well, and knowing which accommodations to supply.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Well, we're out of time, but thank you so much for coming to our third discussion, and we've had a great semester with all of you.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks.